Hi guys, this is Mark. In this video, we'll continue exploring the capabilities of the Google Maps component, and specifically we will look into controlling the map's zoom level programmatically using the codeless logic. To demonstrate how the zoom level can be controlled programmatically, in my page I will drag a container object. There will be two cells, so you can just create two cells. The first cell, the width could be minimal, 1/12. The other cell could be 11/12. So in here, we will place a selector, which will be a radio buttons group right here. Or you could use a select component. The idea is that I want to have a selector where you can select the zoom level that is described what it's going to be like, whether it's the world all the way down to the buildings. And depending on the selection here, the map that we will place into the cell 2, let's do that right now, that map will change its zoom accordingly to the selection right here. By the way, select the row and set the width, actually set the height to 100%, and then select the container and set the height to 100% as well. So we see more of this. Now, as far as the actual zoom levels, I do have a page from the Google Maps documentation open here. So there are like 20 different zoom levels. Yeah, actually, see, as you can see, it goes from 1 to 20. And these 5 are sort of like the benchmarks, or I guess more like milestones in the actual levels of zoom. So let's have these 5 programmed in our UI in the form of those radio buttons, and these will be the values that we will use and assign to individual radio buttons. Let's do that real quick right here so we can actually replicate some of these radio buttons. And by the way, as you can see, these radio buttons are in the radio button group, and the radio button group is a component that allows you to make sure that there's only one option selected. So select the first one, the label will be world, and the value will be 1. The second one, it is going to be continent, and the value is, actually, was it 5? I believe it was 5. Yeah, the continent is 5. And this one is city, and the value is 10. Then the next one after city, it's streets. The value is 15. Finally, the last one, it is buildings, and the value is 20. And let's say the city is going to be selected. It's checked. Okay, so these are our options. So now if we select radio buttons group, the entire group that contains all of the individual radio buttons, and go to the logic, you'll see that there is an onChange event. And this event is triggered every time when the radio button is selected. And the checked value will be the actual value that is assigned to the selected radio button. And by the way, if you notice, then on any given radio button here, there is a label, which is what's displayed, and the value. By the way, these values, as you can see, they are numeric because Google Maps requires them to be numbers. However, when we get the actual value, it's going to be a string. So we will need to make sure that that string is converted to a number. Otherwise, Google Maps will not like it. So let's select the radio buttons group and go to the logic. Okay, and here in this logic, let's just use the data binding. So to place the value into page data. So let's say the property will be zoom level, and the value, if we use this, we will get an error because this checked value is a string, and what we want to put into page data is a number. In order to convert the string to a number, a little trick is to use the math component, such as this. So we will take the string, we'll multiply it by 1, which mathematically doesn't change anything, but what comes out of this block is going to be a number. So this is kind of the simplest way to convert a string to a number in the codeless logic. So at this point, we place the zoom level that is selected from the radio button, the selected radio button, it's into the page data at the zoom level property. So if we go to the user interface, select the map and go to the logic, In here, you will see that there is a zoom level data binding. And we use the same property that we just used to place the value from the radio button group. So everything seems to be in place. However, there's one important thing that you need to keep in mind. The zoom level data binding will be triggered as soon as the application runs. And by default, there's really nothing sitting in that zoom level, so it's going to be undefined value. And Google Maps doesn't like it. So if Google Maps gets a value that is not defined for centering a map or zoom level, there will be an error and the map simply will not be displayed. Actually, let me show you what it's going to look like. So you see, we got our radio buttons, the map is not there. And the reason the map is not there is because the zoom level is not set properly. So what you want to do is to bootstrap that value and put it into page data somewhere. So in page, on page enter could be a good place for this. However, you may put it in some other part of your application, but it seems like here it would be good to just bootstrap that with some value. So in here, set property in page data, and the property was zoom level. And then the default value could be 10, because that's what we had selected in the radio button. 10. I think it is 10. Let's double check. So we have city selected and city is 10. So at this point, once we run the page, it should just work. There you go. So we have San Francisco City at the city level. So if we select streets, now it zooms automatically to streets and buildings. Now we get the much lower zoom or higher zoom, depending how you want to look at it. And as you can see, these radio buttons, they work exactly as you would expect. Now, if you don't want to do it programmatically and you just want to enable zoom level, because if you take a look, there is no zoom level control though, those plus and minus buttons right here. You can actually do it because you can select the map component and in here select zoom control. And then you get automatically these plus and minus buttons. And once you rerun the app, they will just be there. So you can control the zoom using the standard approach. However, in some applications, you may need to control it programmatically. And that's exactly what we focused on in this video. I hope you found it useful. Thank you for watching. And as always, happy codeless coding.